right, everyone, can you please take your seats? Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, everyone, first up, I would like to introduce former state treasurer and former city treasurer, Velda Jones Potter. And next, I would like to introduce Governor John C. Carney, Jr.
Feel like it's Wilmington High versus PS or something.
Good evening. I'm going to put these on because I took some notes to make sure that I don't omit anything important. My name is Renata Kowalczyk. I serve as the CEO of Wilmington Alliance, a nonprofit that focuses on equitable economic development in the city of Wilmington. Welcome to the Mayoral Candidate Forum, dedicated solely to the topic of economic development. Thank you to both of our candidates for being here tonight, Ms. Velda Jones-Powder and Governor Carney. We know you're very busy, your time is precious. We are superbly grateful for you being here and sharing your vision and your wisdom and your picture for what economic development in the city of Wilmington could look like. Thank you to the members of the community. When we set up chairs, we had no idea that so many more of you is going to show up. So that speaks volume of who you are. So thank you for being here in the room, but also thank you to many folks who are joining us online. And for many of you who've been already asked how folks can see this later on, this is being recorded, and thanks to our media partner DETV, this will be rebroadcasted 3 times a week through Channel 28 until the primaries. So if you want folks to know or be educated, let them know that that option is available. Tonight's Mayoral Forum is brought to you by a nonpartisan group of organizations: CINAIR, Cornerstone West CDC, Delaware Black Chamber of Commerce, Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League, True Access Capital, Wilmington Alliance, the Wilmington Public Library, and DETV. Collectively, our organizations work to support, advocate for, and advance economic development, small business growth, and housing and community development. Our focus is promoting economic growth by creating equitable opportunities in historically disinvested communities. Here's how tonight's will go. Following me, Sarah Lester, the CEO of Cornerstone West CDC, will introduce our esteemed moderator, Mr. Kerwin Gaines, who is not a stranger to our 2 candidates. Following Sarah, the moderator will remind the candidates of the ground rules, as tonight's event is not a debate, it's a forum. Both candidates will have 2 minutes for opening, 3 minutes for closing. The collective of our organizations had prepared some questions, but in addition, we want to source questions from all of you. So please, if you do not have in your hand index card, raise your hand. We have volunteers. They will get those cards to you. Write the question. Those questions will be later collected from you all and will be handed over to our moderator. And then he will pick from those questions and ask them in addition to the ones that we have prepared. The final portion of tonight's event will end at 7:30 p.m., giving a little bit of time for the community to network with our 2 candidates. And then we will leave the library at 8, and then the rest of us who are the host organizations will do the cleanup. So thank you all for being here, and I will hand this off to Sarah.
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Sarah Lester, and I'm the president of Cornerstone West CDC. So you have a different voice to hear from to introduce the moderator, but similar outfits. Me and Renata, we're kind of matching tonight. But it's been a pleasure to work with this collective of organizations, and just wanted to reiterate how happy we are that you all are here tonight, and thank you very much. So just to reiterate, this is not a debate. It is a forum, which means there won't be rebuttals, but more opportunity for folks to add on or respond a bit in the discussion. Kerwin will explain. And I have the pleasure of introducing Kerwin. So some of you may have seen him Monday night as well, but I just want to ask everyone to join me in welcoming Kerwin Gaines. He is the esteemed host of Delaware TV, DETV's political talk show, The Agenda. In addition to his media role, Kerwin brings over 25 years of leadership in cybersecurity and small business management to the table. He has a distinguished background in guiding cross-functional teams to develop and implement comprehensive compliance strategies, ensuring the protection of critical infrastructure and sensitive information within the Department of Defense and intelligence communities. Kerwin is a proud Delaware native with deep roots across all 3 counties, and holds an MBA from Wilmington University. He also is an adjunct professor there, where he is sharing his expertise with the next generation of leaders. So Kerwin's diverse experience and commitment to both his profession, the community, and to economic development in the state of Delaware make him a valuable voice in today's discussion. So thank you very much, and please welcome Kerwin Gaines.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Oh, come on. This is a debate. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not a debate. It's a forum. It's a forum. It's a forum. I apologize. Please. But I'm excited that everyone's here. This is, I think, my 4th this season, my 2nd this week, especially with these 2 candidates. And I want to thank everyone that came out for the first one on Monday. I've said before, and I'll say again, I am extremely impressed from someone who has to completely come up with questions every week to speak to candidates and political folks throughout the Delaware Valley. I'm very, very proud of the questions that are placed on the index cards that are passed forward for the candidates. And again, I hope that they take a look at some of those, because it's coming directly from their constituents and telling you what is on their mind and what is affecting them when they have left their homes, when they left work, when they got out of their cars. These are the top issues that are affecting them. So I'm very, very proud of everyone here and through the city and through the state is taking advantage of this and taking the time to fill out those cards. And I urge the candidates to please take a look at them. Tonight, we're looking for another great forum filled with questions and answers and getting the information that you need. I would urge everyone, again, for decorum. This is the first time that we're not in a church. Right? It's been Canaan Baptist Church, it's been Azion Fair, but this is the House of Wilmington Library. So I'm looking for the same level of decorum from the audience when it comes to that. I understand that some of the topics are very, very passionate and touch you in your home. It touches you and where you live, what you support, and basically what you stand for, and you may not agree with the candidate, but please don't shout out. Right? We don't need standing ovations and all those other great things. You could save that till afterwards, and you can talk to them directly and shake hands. And once I receive your cards, I will do my best, because there will be several cards, to get as many of the questions in. I want to be honest with you. I will not get all of the questions in, but I will do my best. Some of the questions that you ask, they may answer prior post you writing. So I won't ask the same question over and over again. Right? But that does not mean that your question was not important. Please do not meet me afterwards and ask why I did not get your question on there. I did the very best that I could. Every time I say that, I still get that. And I get it from my own family, so I don't even feel bad, like I can understand their writing. So I am very pleased to have both candidates here. Thank you so much for putting up with me for this week and my style of asking questions. The governor keeps me straight. As always. So let's get to it. What do you say? You all ready? All right. So earlier this week, Governor Carney started the questions, right? He was the first. So being fair, tonight will be Ms. Jones-Potter, and she will start the questions. The closing remarks will go to Governor Carney first, and you will be the subsequent remarks. Does everybody remember the rules? Your opening statements will be 2 minutes each. 2 minutes. Ms. Potter. 2 minutes. Governor, 2 minutes, okay? And then there will be 90 seconds per question. Monday, it was 60 seconds. We're extending that to 90 seconds to give you a little bit more time, okay? Rebuttals are the same. Give me the look, give the timekeeper the look. The timekeeper's right here. A little different setup. I don't know if she has a chime like the other one did. No rebuttals? Follow-ups. I'm sorry. My nomenclature is off. Follow-ups. I apologize. Okay? We will have 30 seconds for follow-ups. And your closings will be 3 minutes apiece. 3 minutes apiece for closing. All right? Everybody okay? All right. So the first question, this is going to be in regards to economic development here in the city. It is, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. Opening statements, thank you for keeping me straight. We'll start off with opening statements. I apologize. I did the same thing on Monday, too. Absolutely. So, Ms. Jones-Potter, you can begin with your opening statement.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me okay? Good. Good evening. And thank you all for coming out this evening. I am really excited to share with you my vision for the city of Wilmington and my thoughts on some of the questions that will be presented today. I am a native of Wilmington. I first lived on Church Street. My family moved to Riverside, and I spent most of my early years there. My parents then bought a home on East Lawn Avenue, their first and only home. My mom still lives there today. I graduated public schools from P.S. DePont High School and became an engineer with a degree received from the University of Delaware. I worked the early part of my career for the DuPont Company until I had an opportunity to serve the public at the grace of former Mayor James Sills. That changed my life. I got an opportunity to see what you could do in impacting the lives of people if you brought, first of all, care, secondly, courage, and then also the capability to implement some things in the interest of people. So I'm excited about where Wilmington can go, where we will go, and this is a time of change for us. We have a huge opportunity to make Wilmington the place that's safe, smart, and empowered. And frankly, the most important one of that to me is empowered, where people in this city understand that we are Wilmington, that we create the city that we want to live in, that we can choose how our communities are by holding our leaders accountable, by electing those who represent our interests collectively. So I'm excited to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Jones-Potter. Appreciate it. Governor Carney.
Thank you, Kerwin. Good evening, everyone. I'm your governor, John Carney. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's good to see some of you were here on Monday. Thank you to the Delaware Economic Development Collaborative for hosting this important discussion and your efforts to inform all voters about the candidates running. Let me begin by thanking all of you for the privilege of serving as your governor, as I have the past 7.5 years. It's been truly an honor and certainly a real challenge as we work through a global pandemic. Over my 2 terms as governor, we've made a lot of progress on the issues that matter most to people, starting with our economy. Over the last 8 years, we've created more than 30,000 new jobs. We've turned a $400 million budget deficit into a $500 million surplus. We doubled funding for early childhood education, and for the first time ever, provided additional funding for low-income children in our public schools. I've thought long and hard about what to do next as my second term as governor comes to the end. As I thought about the issues that matter most, education, housing, public safety, job creation, the answer was clear. I can make a bit bigger difference on those issues as mayor of Wilmington than I could in Washington, D.C. And I look forward to using my experience to bring attention and resources to our largest city. First and foremost, that means building on our economic progress here in downtown Wilmington and across the whole city. We need one city approach to economic development that will create opportunities for Wilmington families in every neighborhood. A good job solves a lot of problems, puts food on the table, and helps families pay their bills. As mayor, I will put a real focus on small minority-owned businesses, and we will focus on investing in commercial corridors from North Market Street to Maryland Avenue and several others in between. I have a record of experience in delivering results for the people of Wilmington, and I look forward to continuing that work as the next mayor if you give me that opportunity. Thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to your questions.
Now it's time for the first question. Let me try this again. What is your vision for the Mayor's Office of Economic Development? Please consider the following when you answer. Access to capital for small business, support for small business, and economic development activity in communities outside of the downtown and the riverfront. Would you like the question repeated? You have an issue with me repeating the question?
Oh.
No, not at all.
What is your vision for the Mayor Office of Economic Development? Please consider the following when you answer. Access to capital for small business, support for small businesses, and economic development in communities outside of the downtown and the riverfront. Ms. Jones-Potter.
Yes, so my vision of the Wilmington Office of Economic Development is that it will do all that and more. Much of what was asked in the question speaks to exactly what has not been happening. That the development that has been occurring has been downtown and at the riverfront, and it has not included our neighborhoods and our communities. So the Office of Economic Development in the Jones-Potter administration will be community-centered. It will be people-focused. It will ensure that we start with the education of our children, the training and development of people, that they are prepared to participate and help create a vibrant economy. That each of those neighborhoods throughout our city that has its own quiet culture will be allowed and brought into the fold so that it can create and develop its economy within itself. For example, the East Side and the art and culture and entertainment richness that resides there. Today, we should have walking trails there along that city where you can hear and engage with where Clifford Brown lived and where Dr. Redding lived. So you can enjoy that history as it's experienced as an economic engine for that neighborhood.
As the question suggests, there's been a tremendous focus on development on the riverfront. I'm sorry, did you want to? As the question suggests, there has been a tremendous focus successfully on the riverfront development there. There are now 2,000 people that live there, 4,000 employees in here in downtown Wilmington. But so there needs, and there are people doing that. It's mostly funded from the state government. They get money from the bond bill. And we just had a really successful effort in bringing Insight here to just across Rodney Square. And so the real focus for the next administration needs to be on those commercial corridors that we know about all over the city. North Market Street. We just cut the ribbon on a new library up there that'll be a real magnet for new development there. The development just across the Brandywine on Market Street that Senator Brown has been working on. Tremendous investment going there. Maryland Avenue needs a lot of work. We got about 75, we've been knocking on doors in our city, about 7,500 people in that neighborhood. They need some development there. We need to work on our entrepreneurs and small businesses, involve small minority business contractors as they do in the land use housing work across our city, more involved in some of these initiatives that are geared towards those other commercial centers across our city and neighborhoods that join them. They are the lifeblood of this city. You go out there as I have and you're knocking on doors on every porch across our city. We got wonderful city. We've got wonderful neighborhoods in every part of the city. In each of them, there are certain things where they need help, and that's where our focus needs to be.
Thank you. In fairness to each candidate and the pacing of their answers, I would ask that you would hold your applause to the end of the last candidate, okay? That throws people off. I know you might think, well, it's not a big deal, but trust me, if you're preparing to give your statement, it can throw you off, either one of the candidates. So please, let's hold our applause to the end of the last candidate. Are we agreed? All right, that's good news. So,
Do we have follow-up on that? Or we gonna do
do we have a follow-up? Was there a follow-up?
Yes. While we have seen a great deal of development on the riverfront and downtown, I would have started with the communities. I would have started there because they are the people who live in this city, and that's where those taxes came from that provided incentives for all the building that has occurred. In the meantime, our communities have deteriorated. I'll end it there for the moment.
So if you look at the funding by state government and the city government over the last 8 years, the major focus has been on the east side, lots of new housing development. We just built a brand new school, over $100 million, the first new school in our city in a half century. Investment in Reach Riverside. If you haven't been up in Riverside recently, you need to go. It's a whole different place, and it's a comprehensive development. Just the kinds of focus that we're talking about in all of the commercial corridors and neighborhoods across our city. I was at a meeting on the east side, and a woman put her hand up and said, "Time."
It creeps up on you. I'm sorry. It creeps up on you. So for the second question, a key economic development activity in the city is the retention of existing businesses and the attraction of new ones. In the city of Wilmington, whose responsibility is the business attraction and retention, and the new mayor, what steps will you take to ensure that both sets of activities are equitable? Would you like for me to repeat? A key economic development activity is the retention of existing businesses and the attraction of new ones. In the city of Wilmington, whose responsibility is the business attraction and retention, and as new mayor, what steps will you take to ensure that both sets of activities are equitable?
So as governor, I've had just that responsibility for the whole state. We created the Delaware Prosperity Partnership, as you heard me at the outset, created 33,000 jobs coming out of a pandemic. We've had $2 billion worth of capital investment. We've just had a very successful effort to attract insight to come from Pennsylvania here to Delaware. But I can tell you the number one thing as mayor is public safety. Nobody's going to come here, nobody's going to stay here unless they think their employees will be safe. By the way, as I knock on doors, everybody in our city, what's the number one issue? Public safety. I was in one of the high-rises the other day, and the women were telling me about the threats that they see in their neighborhood in front of Crestview. People that are coming into the building after night. It's about public safety. The same is true about retaining and attracting new businesses to our state. When it comes down to business matters, it's about workforce. And so we have to have the best educated workforce of any city in this region. That means starting from preschool all the way up through high school and college. We're trying to get in the building across the way a college campus with the Widener Law School, Delaware State University Nursing as the anchors there. That will be a huge boost to every child who lives in our city. And it's the quality of the workforce that will determine our ability to attract businesses and keep businesses here.
Thank you. Ms. Jones-Potter.
The absolute most important thing that a business looks at when considering coming here, and yes, staying here, is indeed the quality of the education. People don't want to come here if their children are going to be in schools where they're not going to perform and prosper. The condition of our schools under the leadership, the governor, in the last 8 years and prior, but the last 8 years in particular, is appalling. Our children are failing. Third graders, only 5% can read at a third grade level. Despite the additional monies that have been poured into it, the results have not been commensurate. We are in the top 5 in spending, and we're in the bottom 5 in performance. We have got to fix our schools and the education of our children. I believe as we bring our communities together with schools in our own neighborhoods where they're able to learn in a culturally competent environment, where people understand their plight in life and believe in their potential, and we resource them properly, we can then and will then see the results that will allow us to bring new businesses and attract them here.
Can I just add something to that?
Yes.
So it's going to involve partnerships. Even today, the governor, the county executive, and the mayor work together very closely on all kinds of economic development projects. And we've been successful. The 866 jobs come to Insight is the best example. You got to work together, and it's about partnerships. The same is true about development in our neighborhoods and the neighborhood commercial corridors. It's about working for the organizations that sponsor this forum tonight. They're on the front lines. They're doing it, and we need to partner with them.
Do you have a rebuttal, ma'am? I'm sorry. Follow up.
The underlying necessity here for us is that we recognize we've got to do things drastically different than what we've done before. And that's top to bottom of the state, but it's also right here in Wilmington. And so we've got to open our eyes and our minds to new ideas, to new ways of doing things, and it's got to engage and involve the people in this community like it has never done before.
Now, for the next question, in pre-reading, I find it very interesting because this gives numbers to an issue that I was talking about last night on a candidate with my show, and that's the affordable housing here in the city. What I did not know, and what I think this question is great, where it's giving you real numbers of what it takes to live, right? Sometimes we forget about that and how tangible it is for individuals. Sometimes we're blessed so much where there's not even a factor. So sometimes we forget, right? So please keep that in mind for this next question. Housing affordability is a challenge across the nation and requires action at all levels of government. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, the housing wage in Wilmington is $28.27 per hour. $30.65 across the state. This is the hourly wage that is needed to rent a market rate 2-bedroom apartment without it being a cost burden. An individual working a minimum wage job in the state would need to work 76 hours a week to afford a market rate 1-bedroom apartment. The cost to rent an apartment affordably is out of reach for too many households. As mayor, what policies or programs will you support to improve housing affordability in the state? In the city, excuse me.
So it's about partnership. The city has limited resources, if you think of it, and it's about production of new supply. And that's the only way you're going to get prices to come down. You need it at the emergency housing level. You need it at the entry housing level. You need it at the senior housing level, the subsidized housing level, and first home buyer level. And we've pumped tens of hundreds of millions of dollars into that supply over the last several years. You just drive around the city, go into the WHA buildings and talk to the people that are there. It's got to be partnerships because the money has to come from the federal government and the state government, and that's where it's come from in the last 8 years. And we have invested more in housing than any time in our history. It's one of those things where it feels like you're trying to get on that bottom end of the ladder. We doubled the minimum wage in our state. It's going to go to $15 a minimum an hour starting in January, and there are a lot of people in this room worked for that. But that's still not enough, as you mentioned, for a modest apartment across our city. But you've got to create more supply to drive the prices and the rents down. And you can't have arbitrary limitations on that, because then that's just going to squeeze the supply even more and make the problem worse. So it does require partnerships, and I would work on those as mayor.
In this city, excuse me, it's been my observation that we've seen a sizable increase in supply within the city. The problem is those that have come online have not been affordable for people who live here. We see an influx of people coming in from Philadelphia, from New York, from New Jersey, where salaries and wages are higher in that marketplace. And so they live here and they commute there. We need housing for people who live here that they can afford. Now, there are two sides to that equation. There's the house and its price, but then there's the ability of those individuals to afford it based on what they earn. I think it's important that we work on that side of the equation. These homes that have been being built, there are a lot of plumbers, electricians, carpenters, contractors who worked on those homes, and they pay very good wages. But our people here locally have not been afforded the opportunity to work there. You see Maryland tags, you see New Jersey tags, you see all of that. So we've got to make sure our people work so they can afford to pay for those homes that are built by our people. And that's where I believe, and I will focus as mayor.
For both of the candidates, before your follow-up, I just want to be clear, especially for the people at home, when they're talking about inventory, they're talking about homes that are vacant, right? That are ready for people to move into, whether new apartments or whatever, but that are readily available. Some people may not know that, so that's why we're going over it, okay?
Follow-up, go ahead. You mentioned vacant homes. That's a big problem in every neighborhood, in almost every neighborhood in our city. And one of, frankly, the best programs the city currently has is a program through the land bank to get control of those properties and turn them over in an affordable way to a home buyer. What it does, not just helps that individual person, it helps that whole street, that whole neighborhood, and it's a really investment. And guess what? There are minority contractors that are doing that work across the city. It's a great program, and we ought to get it more money. And as mayor, I'll go find the money and get it, bring it back to the city.
The land bank has not been a good answer for our city. Had those homes been made available to individuals who could put sweat equity in, as a homestead program does, as Detroit did with Liberty Bank, who funded homeowners to be able to restore those homes, we would see people living in them who lived here. As developers are brought in and given access to tens and dozens of homes at a time, they're building in a profit. That profit the home buyer has to pay for.
Sounded like a rebuttal to me, but do I get a rebuttal on a rebuttal or no?
No, that was not a rebuttal. That was my adding to my comments.
So moving forward, if it was, I'll take responsibility. But moving forward, there will not be rebuttals, just follow up. So please, candidates, be cognizant in answering your questions. Okay. Moving on to the next question. I think it's for the best. Economic development in Wilmington is tied to quality and stability of our housing stock. We have made progress in addressing Wilmington's blight and vacancy problem, with efforts underway by several stakeholders to redevelop properties into affordable homes. Without ARPA funding winding down, however, it may be difficult to keep this momentum going by ensuring continued investments while lowering cost on development. What steps would you take to make it easier for equitable development in Wilmington?
Partnerships. Got to work with the county executive and the next governor. As governor, I've worked with the mayor to make huge investments, some of which with ARPA funding, significant amounts with state bond bill money in Riverside. Over $100 million has gone into Riverside to completely transform that area. Look at the east side. Drive over on Bennett Street tonight on your way home. It's a whole new street that was done by the land bank, by the way, and vacant houses across the city. When I was over in the lower hilltop, I had people coming out of their homes saying what a tremendous thing it was that we got rid of that vacant home where there was drug dealing and prostitution going on my street. And now it's gone. And it goes to an identified Delawarean, Wilmingtonian, who meets an income level that's below and is able to buy it at below market. That's how it actually works. You just got to do it. You got to get the money from the state because the ARPA money is gone. There is going to be opportunities to get federal funding if you're working with the delegation. It takes partnerships. It takes the same kind of partnerships like with the agencies that are sponsoring this debate to do the neighborhood redevelopment and reinvestment. If we want to talk about reinvestment, we got to work with those that are out on the street, with the community development corporations that are coming up with the ideas right from the people who live in those neighborhoods. We need to bring the resources to their ideas and their dreams.
Ms. Jones-Potter.
One of the things I believe we should have long implemented, and I will intend to have dialogue with council about, is rent control. People are losing their homes every day now because their landlords are trying to take advantage of these increasing rents, giving them 60-day notice so that they can do some minor renovations and then increase the rent double or two and a half times. So that would stabilize those people who are currently renting. Landlord accountability is important in this equation as well. Detroit addressed this issue in a way that I believe will work well for us here. It was their home restoration and acquisition program, where individuals were able to get loans for the full cost of acquiring and restoring their homes. Those of you who know, if you go to a traditional bank today, it's almost impossible for you, if the home needs a significant amount of restoration, it's almost impossible for you to get a loan that will allow you to acquire it and restore it. But that's the key for our blighted homes. Working with Liberty Bank, the first Black-owned bank in this country and the second largest in this country, Detroit restored large neighborhoods using that restoration program.
Is there a follow-up?
I would just agree with Ms. Jones-Potter on that one. And the city has a program that does just what she's suggesting, which is make improvements that the homeowner can't afford. It's a limited list, admittedly, but we can grow it. So they can fix the facade, they can fix the heater, they can fix the air conditioner, whatever the case may be. I've talked to women, mostly on the east side, who have participated. That's a good idea, and it's an idea that we ought to bring more funding to it. And again, partnerships to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Jones-Potter.
Homeownership is the key to acquiring wealth and having something to pass on to generations, and to access when we're trying to send our kids to college and other things that we want to do during the course of life. So my focus is on people owning homes. And as many of these vacant homes as we have across this city, getting them in the hands of individuals with individual financing that allows them to own that home and create generational wealth.
Thank you. The next question is in regards to small businesses. Small businesses are the lifeblood of our communities. In Delaware, 98% of all businesses are small enterprises, and they create 56% of the jobs in our state. Unfortunately, 6 Black-owned businesses had to permanently close their doors in 2023. Given this backdrop, are there any policies or programs from other cities that you believe Wilmington should consider implementing to support and encourage the growth of small local businesses? This question is for you, Ms. Jones-Potter.
So I'd like to remind people maybe or bring to the attention of others one small business who I know had that experience, and that's Drop Squad Kitchen, which was the very first business to locate on the riverfront. Her mother owned Molly's Ice Cream, and then she opened Drop Squad Kitchen. They held that down for years. They were there when there were no other businesses there. But then, as rents began to be increased and increased and increased, they were priced out of the market. And it is vacant today. So for some reason, we'd rather have a vacant building that was a business than to be accepting perhaps not the prime rental income and have the business there operating. So I think we just need to bring a whole different perspective to how we handle our small businesses. Access to capital is extremely important, and I'll work to make sure we get as much of that as we can. But then it's more than just getting the capital to them. There needs to be financial education and support for those people to become successful business owners. We have people who have tremendous ideas, who are super talented, and we've got to help them with the business aspect. Now, I have a little bit of experience doing that, having led financial education initiatives that have been recognized across the country, Smart Savers, the TD Bank school takeovers and education. So we'll do more of that.
Governor
Yeah,
Carney.
just a couple ideas there. We know that people that go to Howard High School, Hodson, some of the VOTECs, they come out with real skills, carpentry, sheet metal work, electricians, and then they create their own business. We need to focus on making sure that our young people know and understand of those opportunities, number one. In terms of funding, one of the most successful funding program for small business is what we call EDGE grants that the Small Business Division of Small Business started under my administration. They've had over 100 grants made, over $6 million. 33% of the recipients were minority-owned businesses, 44% were women-owned businesses. It's a program that works, and it's a program that we should bring more funding to. And then with respect to the technical support in terms of business plans and how to run a business and all those kinds of things, we have partners that are sponsoring this event that do just that work. We have the Small Business Administration at the federal government that does that work. We need to have the partners to help our small business, help our young entrepreneurs. We need to get folks in the neighborhoods that we're talking about to start their own business, take a technical skill that they learned at Howard or one of the high schools, start a business, make a good living, and acquire some health. Those are things, good ideas that I would do and encourage through partnership if elected mayor.
Is there a follow-up?
I'd like to give 2 examples. Our arts, culture, and entertainment, again, I can't say enough about the potential that resides there for really a renaissance here in this city. If we will take the chains off and give them access to forums so they can do what they do in our city. Contractors. We've been told that we don't have any local contractors who are large enough to carry some of these major businesses or projects. So bonding is one thing that we can certainly help with. City resources could be used to underwrite that, and that would be worth the investment.
Is there a follow-up, sir? Okay, so now we're at 6:50. So we can begin to collect the cards the index cards if you had individual questions. The folks will come around and pick them up. I guess you can pass them one way or pass them the other. Now, you all know I'm at that age now where things are starting to get a little blurry on these cards. And the lighting, so if I'm squinting, don't talk too much about me. Mr. Carney, this question is for you. On May 18th, Wilmington City Council approved a $182.6 million budget, which includes $5 million allocated for community and economic development as well as other financial supports for residents and businesses. This budget also included a modified plan to increase business licensing fees and a reduction in the per unit annual fee for rental properties to $75. Despite these measures, some members of the Wilmington business community have voiced concerns about a lack of transparency and communication regarding the city's resources available for small business. The raising of the business license fee have negatively impacted some businesses. If elected, how would you address these concerns and improve the visibility and accessibility of support for small and minority-owned businesses?
So as I said on Monday night, I guess it was, after being elected, if people are good enough to vote for me on September the 10th, as mayor, the first thing I would do is a top to bottom audit, review, operations, the budget, all those things to just get a feel for what the pressures are. I know, just by knowing the budget a little bit, is that the operating budget grows at a rate faster than revenue. And so for over a period of time, you're going to always be under the gun. And that's why, as governor, we passed legislation that gave the city at least $5 million a year in corporate filing fees, increased the fees that they were already getting, anticipating that problem was coming. I couldn't stand here and say that what I would never like to do is raise fees on anybody. There's a whole fees report that's been out that I'm taking a look at, worthy of talking to members of council about it. But it would have to be done in the context of the total budget. You certainly don't want to create disincentives for people to form businesses, particularly small businesses, and operate in a way that ultimately bring in revenue to the city and wealth to the individual and his or her family. And so I just would be very cautious of that. But you have to look at the whole budget scenario to see what to do about it.
Ms. Jones-Potter.
One of the most challenging areas that I observed while in city government that small businesses experienced was the process of opening their business. The red tape, the bureaucracy, the permitting process, the inspections that had to be done. And it cost them when they have to defer getting their income for months and sometimes years. And so operationally, there are some things that we can do to make that experience better and enhance the potential for success and get those businesses up and running faster. Community banks will be an extremely important partner in getting small businesses financing that they need. The community banks are of the community, they know the neighborhood and the community, and oftentimes are much more ready to invest in those small businesses. I believe I have some experience in venture capital. So I've been on the road in a past life raising money for new ideas and innovation. And there's the opportunity for us to do that with some of the ideas and the creativity that exists in this city that represent the potential for thriving businesses.
Just follow on.
Follow up, yes, sir.
Yeah, as a follow-up, one of the other things that I would do first thing as elected and into the term would be to hold town hall meetings all over the city, to hear from people directly. That's what I did after being elected governor. We went all over the state, all the way down to Sussex County, Milford and Kent County, all the way down here on Delaware Tech, just to understand what the priorities of the people that live in the neighborhood, that pay the bill.
All right. Next question, Ms. Jones-Potter. To what degree would small business owners be involved in the process of creating policies and programs that will impact small businesses in the city of Wilmington? How would you propose to involve them? So it's not just a...
So I mentioned early on that my platform is built on 3 pillars: safe, smart, and empowered. The importance and the need for the voice of people as individuals representing their businesses, the organization, them in the conversation and development of the plans for how we move forward to get is an important part of what we will do. That's the empowered piece of this.
Yeah, so I mentioned town hall meetings. All residents, but in particular, small business owners that come out, they have complaints about different conditions in their neighborhood. I would consider forming a small group that meets regularly so you have some idea. I mean, that's really important. I had lunch with my wife Tracy after our event here this morning on March. I really need to talk to you about, what's happening here. I can't put my chairs outside. Just being in touch with what's going on the ground, whether it's Maryland Avenue, whether it's Union Street, Lincoln Street, North Market Street, all of those communities are a little bit different, and you have to know that you can address them.
Okay. This question is for Ms. Jones-Potter. Procurement participation goals are 20% for construction contracts, 10% for goods and services, and 5% services. How do you plan to address the fact that these targets are relatively lower compared to those of other predominantly black cities such as Atlanta, New Orleans, and Detroit? These cities often set more ambitious goals for participation rates around 25 to 30%, similar or higher rates for other services. What specific steps will you take to raise Wilmington's procurement goals and enhance support for disadvantaged businesses, practices of other cities?
I learned a long time ago, probably back in my DuPont life, that what gets measured gets done. Aspirations for inclusion. We are not at a place where we can expect people who have been disinvested in to be support much higher goals than that. And I have frankly been working actively with some current members of council, observed some of the work that they've undertaken, giving them input into establishing just that. Local, higher, business involvement. But the key to that is what gets measured gets done. If there's no accountability on the roster, but actually worked and had earned a living from those projects or whatever, then the policy, and it still won't make a difference. So I think I have a reputation for holding people accountable to the that when it comes to including making sure all people across our city get an opportunity to participate in that prosperity.
Well, Mr. Carney, I think I made a mistake. That question should have gone to you first. I'll make it up on the back end.
Okay. So many years ago when Tom was still alive and Rick Evans was working at Newcastle County, so was I, and both of them were responsible for the disadvantaged business programs in the city and the county. Rick's office was right next to mine, and Tom would come down all the time with his big parrot on his shoulder, and they'd talk about the challenge of getting I think we ought to make sure that we're meeting those goals first, whatever they were, 20% and 10% or whatever. Go into the workforce and strengthen those contractors so they're getting more of the work. That's why, again, I think the land bank program, all those small contractors, enables them to grow and get bigger, get the capacity to do the bigger projects, and thereby you've got to hold your division directors accountable, and it would be worth doing. I don't think the city has done what they call disparity analysis goals, but let's meet the goals that we have, and let's cultivate the businesses that are out there doing the work before we go into something we can't even reach. If they're not reaching them now, raising them is not going to help.
Is there a follow-up?
Yes. For this city and all the people who are here. And so I think we need to aim high, strike hard, and make some. And if we're shooting for a 30% and we hit a 25%, then we'll go to next time and we'll hit 30. So I think where a lot of what should be happening isn't happening.
Thank you. Do you have one? We have an important issue here. There is a car that is about to be towed. Odyssey, and I believe this is a Delaware plate, 437198. We have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. We have a winner. There is Volkswagen Jetta 337888. 337888. I think that's out of Delaware. How that works.
You got to apply through the Secretary of State and come to my desk and we'll write it off. No pardons for parking tickets.
Okay. Governor Carney, this is for you. Based on a review of audits performed in recent years by the city auditor, the impression is that there is very little oversight on basic procedures. Audit appears to lead to some efforts to correct these issues, there remains a perceived culture of this is just how we've been doing things. Is there anything that you would do in office to address the procedure and oversight issues in city government?
I have not had an opportunity. Dealt with the state auditor all the time, and so I know the rigor that goes into that. I mentioned one of the first things I would do is an audit of city operations. As governor, I established a group called GEAR, Government Efficiency and Accountability Review. Constantly evaluate the operations and agencies across the state. I would do the same thing in the city as mayor to make sure that we're used to doing things the way they've been done before. But with all the technology today, there's always a better way to do things. And when you have a budget direction with revenue and expense, you're going to need to find those areas of efficiency, or else you're going to have to look for revenue somewhere else. Audit, identify the areas where there's not a lot of efficiency, find solutions to that, bring on a team that does the review as we have, and change things. It's all about change, and it's all about management. I mean, frankly, people that are managers in various kind of get used to letting things go by the way, and it shouldn't be done that way.
Thank you. Ms. Jones-Potter.
City books and operations when I get in office. We have to have a baseline understanding of where we are and what has happened. This question, though, is more about leadership and the attitude that an organization takes on from its leaders. I have done in other leadership roles that I've entered, including when I came in as city treasurer. And so we're to do that with a spirit of service, humility, support, and just know that. Also with an understanding and expectation that we are going to work with a spirit of excellence and transparency and all those things, integrity, yes, all those things that the public expects of us and that they deserve. And I believe when he or she goes about doing their work, then people in the organization understand that nothing less is acceptable of them. In the first 2 years, we restored $20 million to this city. So I'm looking forward to what we can do across the.
Yeah, just to follow on, one of the things that I've discovered, again, knocking on doors across the city, is there's not a sense of urgency in certain departments complaints. And that's something that really have to work on, because usually they're quality of life things. They're things that make it a pain to live on a street, you know, with lots of other folks and whatever it be. And if you got a dead tree in your yard, or you got potholes out front, you go up by Haynes Park right now, all the streets are torn up because they're putting in new natural gas hooks. So we got to respond quickly.
We've got to make sure we take care of all of our neighborhoods equitably. We will have an Office of Neighborhood Development, and that's the clear connect to the various neighborhoods throughout our city, so that we're getting continuous input and feedback as to what their needs are across our departments, and it's lighting, and so that we can be responsive according to the needs of each neighborhood.
this question, we will go into the public comment, okay? This question will go to Governor Carney to make up for my mistake earlier. So you will have questions, okay? In March of this year, the Delaware Business Roundtable published the Delaware Investment Agenda, which serves as the blueprint for the state's economic development. The new investment agenda are as follows. A, build a more robust entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. B, strengthen Delaware's talent pipeline and increase. And C, enhance Delaware's long-term competitiveness for the new investment, jobs, and talent. If elected, what steps will you take to ensure developing and the implementation plan for this agenda and the benefits from it?
Could you restate the question, please?
In March of agenda, which serves as the blueprint for the state's economic development. The three priorities of the new investment agenda are innovation ecosystem. B, strengthen Delaware's talent pipeline and increase the support for the state workforce. Jobs and talent. If elected, what steps will you take to ensure that the city of Wilmington has an active role in the development found from it?
So the city of Wilmington has to be a major focus of economic development. And the focus of the next administration, if I'm mayor, North Market Street, Union Street, Lincoln Street, Maryland Avenue, all those areas and the neighborhoods surrounding them. That's where our focus ought to be. Our people, Wilmingtonians, young Wilmingtonians growing up, and they need the education and the skills training to be able to participate fully in the economy. And priority number 2, which is workforce development. Our state and our city is going to rise or fall on the ability of training programs that does such an unbelievable job here in Wilmington is Zip Code Wilmington, because they take people that are making maybe 40 or 50 computer coder, they go on to one of the banks or one of the big companies and they make double that salary and they continue to live here. They lift up all the neighborhoods. We need to do that real focus on the workforce and the focus on the education of our children as we focus on building those neighborhoods across our city that have been left behind. And as mayor, that's exactly what I would do, and get in with partnerships with this.
So I think I'll just deal with that in 2 ways. The robust entrepreneurship piece, I think we just need to get out of our own way. They are ambitious, they are creative, they are innovative, and we, with our red tape, are just really standing in their way. So I'm going to craft what we need to be doing to help them be more successful. The other 2 pieces come down to education. And I mean, we are crisis. 3rd graders cannot read. If that's not addressed, there will be opportunities for them or for us. And this has come about under the leadership of our governor, who has budget and the department that's responsible for education. So I'm not sure better education for Wilmington when it hasn't in the past. We've got to how we deal with educating our children. And it begins with coming back to community. Community.
At the risk of rebuttal, I would just say that one of the things this governor has done with the support of the legislature in Wilmington Public Schools form a specific district within the districts just focused on the education of those children. It's not been an issue where we have there. Do we need to get better roads? Absolutely, and it should be our number one priority.
I come from a background where return on investment matters. Worse results is not acceptable. And a district within a district sounds like bureaucracy to me. Concluded that the city can't educate its own children. We are one of the only states in this nation whose major city can't control its own children's education. So we have a crisis. Leave it at that. We got to answer and deal with.
I would have to agree. So we're even now, okay? So we're going to move directly into the question section, okay? I will be honest. I think we okay, 35, 40 cards, which is great. But I will say that 9 of them asked the same question. And I'm being very transparent so no one thinks that I'm pulling a fast one or anything like that. I will kind of paraphrase all. And Governor Carney, these questions are directed towards you.
Didn't I go first?
You did, but the questions me on this one. You have held offices. You have held the following offices: U.S. Representative, Lieutenant Governor. Why would you want to be mayor of the city of Wilmington?
I think I'm the only one that can answer that question.
Yeah.
Kerwin, I gotta hand it to you on that one. You're exactly. My public service has not been about me. It's been about the people that I've served. Whatever office it was, Lieutenant Governor, Carpenter, Lieutenant Governor, Member of Congress, 3 terms, 6 years, and now 7.5 years as are. It's about helping the people of our state realize those aspirations. It's about putting their interests ahead of mine. Can't run for governor for another term. I thought about the issues that matter the most. I love my city. I love the people I serve to do what I can on those issues that are important to all of you and everybody that I talk to on front porches across the city. And that's why I'm doing it. I could go, I could retire, and that's simply while I'm doing it.
Okay. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Understand that we have some very strong opinions here, as we all do. Heck, I do. But we will not insult people up here. We will not do. You can support who you want to support, but your comments are heard and they're disrespectful. And that's why people don't come to debates. It's information. and it gives folks a reason. So please stop. Please. Are you with me? Y'all made me forget the daggone question. Why is you running for mayor? Thank you very much. He got it. Amen. So the next question will go for Miss Jones Potter. Bike. Would a program like that benefit Wilmington? And how does it fit your economic view of Wilmington?
I am familiar with the bike share program.
The rent-a-bikes that you see in big cities?
Oh, bikes, bicycles.
Bicycle, yeah.
Okay. That could benefit some areas of our city, I believe. Areas where there are trails or people who would use bicycles. I don't see where that would be something. I think there's some communities, some areas where it might be a good thing. I would communities and the neighborhoods where they think that might be helpful and additive to the quality of life where they live, where they recreate.
Okay, have you completed the question? You have more time if you
No,
wanted to keep going. Okay.
I'm finished.
Governor Carney.
Yeah, they just, yes, not a bike sharing operation. I am aware of others. I spent not time overnight in Washington, D.C., but they have share bikes there. I think it would depend on the neighborhood. The bike lane that's out on Boehner Boulevard, just relatively new, hasn't been used that much, although I saw a guy coming up. Find better ways other than jumping in our cars. You know, we've got global warming coming. It's real. We got to stop driving some of these cars. But these ideas of more walkable, more bikeable cities, I think it makes a lot of sense. We're small as a city, so that I'm talking about really focusing on if I'm elected mayor. You know, those are the ones where you have the opportunity to put a bike share, safety of the bike riders, but certainly worth something to take a look at. We're going to have to think about our communities differently. Different visions for the city, and this could be one of them.
I will say, go ahead. Did you have a follow-up?
Yes. Are really important for us to look at and bring to our city with the climate challenges that we're facing. I invested in the bike lanes as they are right now, not in lieu of the streets that I ride on going to burst. My time is up.
Okay. Violence and crime are the prohibitor of attracting business and families here, meaning Wilmington. What is your plan to address?
So we've had this question before. It obviously is one of the top issues, along with education and in town across the country during the pandemic. The state has been partnering with Wilmington Police Department on a project called Group Violent Intervention. Approach and kind of a social worker approach to the individuals and getting younger and younger every day that are involved in groups and neighborhood groups that have been in prison before. They talk to the young people, try to convince them this is not the way to go. We'll give you help if you take the way out. If you don't, we're going to promise in other cities where it's been used, and I think we ought to lean into it. Now, I would, if I became mayor, I'd move over onto the city side. Services, and the Wilmington Police Department does really the law enforcement piece, but they work together in terms of messaging, in terms of trying to get people from try to interfere and stop that from happening. And I think the last thing I would say is we got to stop the young people, the 13, and that's a little bit harder thing to do.
Ms. Jones-Potter.
This is one that we have to attack on a significant deterrent to that. When people have gainful employment and see a future for themselves. But we really know and understand what that means and how to do it. People who've been there and can meet those young people right where they are. It's got to change the way we're living in our neighborhoods and in our communities. So, for example, downtown visions. Why do we only have downtown? That kind of presence in our communities, particularly those where it's needed most. So that is one of the things that's possible. They engage with, they'll be able to engage with the community. They will be of the community. It's not law enforcement and relationship building on the front end. And then guess what? That creates our pipeline into the fire department and the police department. We don't have people who are ready or who want to become officers or who are ready to become firefighters who are from the community.
Yeah, I would really just say what I think has become the obvious and all the answers to the question, and that is we do the education thing first. We have to make sure that our children are learning, and that's why we formed the Wilmington Learning Collaborative, which is geared towards getting a hyper focus on the children who live in the city of Wilmington. That's what it's intended to do. And one of the things that is part of that, and the legislature voted to do this, which is to move Christina's school to the city. What happened at that school board meeting the other night was just ridiculous.
Well, this will be the and in spirit of education, I will have an education question as your final question. And that question was in regards to curriculum in the city of Wilmington. Your plans to do it. And I understand for both of the candidates, I'm not speaking on your behalf, but the city doesn't control the curriculum. The states and the districts control the curriculum. But I would honestly say, from a state perspective, we're critical at this point in the city of Wilmington. The Christina School District, as you all know, had another board meeting last night. I wasn't impressed. I think that something needs to be done. I don't know the balance between the Department of Education and the school districts, but it's not working, right? And it's as mayor, whomever wins, you have a bullhorn, so to speak, where you can bullhorn to Dover, bullhorn to the for your citizens. So hopefully you all echo that sentiment, but I will give the question to you.
On things that I dedicated so much time to as governor, and that's really what it boils down to, because we can't fail our children, and they are going to get better. So Ms. Jones-Potter's point is you got to get return on investment. I don't disagree with that. But somebody's got to be in there doing it. And with respect to can stand up behind a podium like this and say, this has got to stop. And and I think the first step is, let's get our early childhood education system better addressing the needs of the children that grow up in the neighborhoods in our state. Here teaches at Bancroft. She's going to be in Pritchett Academy at the start of this year. And she was telling me how frustrated she was. She's one of the most dedicated because she doesn't have good leadership. She's got resources, but she doesn't have leadership, and she doesn't have continuity with the children when they leave school. The city has a parks department. They can be that place where the children go after school, because if the kids are behind, as well as learn as the new step. The mayor has to be involved in this.
Ms. Jones-Potter.
Again, this may be. Wilmington needs its own school district to have that control instead of just having a bullhorn like control of the governor. And yet we are where we are. Our children are failing. We've been throwing a few dollars here, a few dollars there at this program and that program. I'd love all the money to go down to the classroom that's going up with the buses running all over the place versus children who can walk to their school, walk to their classroom, and their parents can be engaged right then and there. I will work with my team and teachers who understand children of the city of Wilmington and parents to put together a mandate, because this really is a crisis.
You have a follow-up, sir?
It would be a rebuttal, so I'm not going to say it.
Okay, so now we will move into the final remarks. Thank everyone for their decorum as we're moving through this. This will be 3 minutes per candidate. Afterwards, we will have, and then feel free to speak to the candidates and mingle accordingly. Okay. So as we said before, go with Governor Carney to start.
Thank you, Kerwin. How about a round of applause for our timekeeper? What an unbelievable job. Thankless job. I know you've heard me say this before, but in order for our state to be successful, Wilmington has to be successful. And for Wilmington to be successful, every city has to be strong. And for neighborhoods to be strong, families need good jobs, they need safe neighborhoods, and they need economic opportunity. I'm running for mayor to help meet these challenges and make Wilmington a better place to live for all of us. My campaign staff and I have knocked on over 7,500 doors in every neighborhood. Every day, on front porches across the city, we hear from residents the concerns they have for their neighborhoods. Nothing is more important than making and to contribute to the economic growth of our city. That means investing in good schools, in affordable housing, and in businesses to build a robust economic base here on Rodney Square, along the commercial corridors that I talked about, and across every neighborhood. Just last week, we donated $14 million to the new center, and it will provide additional space for education, recreation, economic empowerment. A few weeks ago, we had a similar event, a people settlement. The state invested more than $20 million at people settlement. We're supporting a project at Bracebridge right across the square here to create a higher education campus right here on the school, the Delaware State University Nursing Program as the anchor tenants, and this will create opportunity for thousands of city kids. We're also expanding the Port of the middle class for generations. As your mayor, I will work together with the next governor and the congressional delegation to continue that Wilmington drives the economic success of our state. And I know that our state depends on the kind of partnerships with people who sponsored this and the record to get it done. We will do it with you and in a way that is good for every neighborhood, every Wilmington. Together, working together only, we will build a stronger city, a more inclusive city. As your next mayor, I will work tirelessly to get that done.
Ms. Jones-Potter.
So thank you very much for this opportunity, and thanks to everyone who look forward to what we can do together across this city for all neighborhoods, but especially for those who have lost opportunity and access. Because when we do that, we all rise. It lifts everyone in our city. Not about the numbers, it's about the people. It's not about bricks and mortar, it's about the people. 3 blocks from here, the old Piani Caterers, maybe it's a few more than 3 blocks, has been there, middle school perhaps. And it has created an environment around it that's festering. And we ride by people systematically every day who we know are incapacitated. And ways for dealing with and addressing that. Good Samaritans, yes, that's great. But the system has to step up, have some humanity. Because as we bring people back into the fold, we create them in their productivity. So the in the criminal justice system, we don't spend a fraction of that to bring them back and acclimate into $41,000 when they go through that turnstile again. So this is what this election is about. And what you want this city to look like, what you want it to feel like. It can be safe, it can be smart. Because that's when we hold our leaders accountable to address the needs that we have. And that's what we have in has gotten us here with years and years of sameness. Are we going to continue the same, or are we going to change and do things differently? Are we going to create the city for everyone all across the city? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, let's candidates. We appreciate your candor and letting us know all the information. If you can, I'm on the way out. Please take a second to speak with them, but also know that there are other candidates in the House as well. There are other politicians, and they are sharing their thoughts about all of this. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and please pay attention to other things. And yes, join us for 2 weeks right here for the group.